Okay, welcome everybody. I'm glad you can make it to our seminar today, Beyond Online Teaching with Virtual Presentation Skills, with our presenter, Dr. Eileen Dittmar. And Dr. Eileen Dittmar is a faculty chair at Capella University, where she leads a 65-member online faculty team, collaborates with course development, coordinates university collaboration initiatives to improve online learner experience, and occasionally teaches online Bachelor of Business and IT introductory courses. She has delivered hundreds of virtual presentations for work and her professional organizations. So I will shut up, and Eileen, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very much, Marty. And I'd like to begin by thanking all of you for taking time to come to today's webinar. And I am obviously passionate about virtual presentation skills, and I'm very delighted to share with you some ideas that I have thought about. And I also look forward to hearing some of your ideas as well. So please feel free to use the chat window at any time you'd like to talk. I'm not offended if you're writing even when I'm talking. And also, if you want to use any of the icons of clapping or the check mark or whatever, that'd be great. I intend to dialogue with you throughout the presentation. I'd like to begin by framing a description of the presentation. I'm going to be discussing tips to hone virtual presenter skills in yourself and in your students. I'm going to be discussing ideas about the skills necessary for virtual presentations and, as appropriate, distinguishing and contrasting the differences between face-to-face and virtual presentations. I'll be talking about key components of effective virtual presentations and common mistakes to avoid. And I have lots of resources that are available for you. I have a PowerPoint that I'm showing today that you can download, and at the end I'll be putting the file transfer box up and you can download it right then. I also have a paper that accompanies the PowerPoint. You can put more there in a paper than you ever can in a PowerPoint. All of the URLs that I'll be showing today are in the paper and in the PowerPoint, so you can get them very easily once the file transfer box will be popped up for you. Also, I do want to kind of begin. I like to ask a question to get things going, but I'm not really sure. I did pick up a little bit from you in the dialogue chat box, but I would be interested in a poll, and you could just check A, B, C, D, or E, whichever one. It looks like I've got check all that apply, but I got a feeling that when you check one, going to override the other one. So I guess pick the main one that would relate to you, and then that'll be very helpful. And I'm going to leave the poll up for a while, and I'm going to move on. I just thought it would be helpful if I could gauge. I'm not sure exactly. It looks like right now we have mostly D's and E's, so that's what I thought we were going to have. That's great. Most of these presentations that I give and most of the resources that I have are geared for high school and post-secondary, but they can be easily adapted for middle school as well. So thank you for taking the time to share that with me. I really appreciate it. I do have some objectives that I had in mind for today, so I thought I would review them briefly to make sure that I'm presenting what you are hoping to get from the session. I'll be discussing what is a virtual presentation, what is a virtual presenter a little bit, just to clarify an understanding of our interpretations. I'm hoping that you'll gain some ideas that will help you prepare students to perform virtual presentations as well as yourself. I'll be sharing tips and strategies for effective voice and virtual image. The meat of my presentation is going to be around the 4 key components of effective virtual presentations. I'll be detailing the importance of sound, substance, and practice. And I'll be talking about common mistakes to avoid. I'm definitely opening myself up here, talking about the things that makes a virtual presentation not be good, and obviously puts it out here for this as a virtual presentation. So obviously it's going to be kind of fun when we get to that point as well. And of course I have resources for you, as well as resources you can take back and use with your students. An outline, I'm going to start with definitions. Then I'm going to talk about the mistakes that are common. Then I'm going to spend the meat of the presentation is the components of the effective virtual presentation. To talk about practicing, sharpening the virtual image, and then I'll have a roadshow of resources throughout. I'd like to begin with just discussing some definitions. There are many interpretations of what is a virtual presenter. Simply stated, a virtual presenter delivers a communication to an audience, and the audience is not in the same place as the presenter. With today's technologies, the presentation can be synchronized, which is real-time. Participants are with the speaker at the same time that the speaker is speaking, of which we're doing here today. Asynchronized means that the participants are not at the same time as the presenter, but they log on separately. We're doing that as well. This is a combination of a synchronized, but as well as we're not in the same place. This presentation is going to be archived, so those that just view the archive because they couldn't make it today, they would be watching a virtual presentation, but they wouldn't be participating in it. The level of interaction with the audience in a virtual presentation can be adjusted by the topic or the delivery. And also, as I continue with the idea of what are virtual presentations, I believe that they encompass things such as meetings, training, webcasts, which are typically a little more professional, where there'll be a professional camera crew that's casting the information out onto the web, and oftentimes now they're even putting them into TV as well. And of course, what we're doing today, a webinar. The communication skills and the media skills align together with the educational outcomes, and that's delivered in a virtual presentation. And I believe each of us can hone our virtual presentation skills and embed them in our classes. And to me, it's all about the voice, content, visuals, and technology. And at this point, I do have a second poll, and I typed 1 through 4, and it should say A, B, C, D, to match the choices you have in the box. So feel free to clarify for me and how many of you have given virtual presentations, and I was expecting to have a variety of people in the audience today, and this is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. It's really very nice. So we do have people at all levels, and I had that in mind when I prepared this presentation. So I knew that we would have some that were beginners as well as some that were intermediate and some that had more experience than others. And I firmly believe that all of us can get better at our virtual presentation skills. And I also believe that it's an important key item in school that we're covering with our students as well. So thank you for taking the time to share that with me. I'm going to clear the I'm going to see if I can clear the, I'm just going to let it be there for a while. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next part here of the presentation, and I'm going to be talking about the common mistakes. And as I'm talking about these mistakes, some things are going to come to your mind that sounds a little bit like the same problem with regular presentations. And the number one problem with virtual presentations, and I would say that's probably the same thing with any presentation, is it's just too long. And it's really important that it be long enough to cover the information, but short enough to hold the audience attention. A second problem that is common is the presenter is just too monotonous in the tone and pitch, and maybe perhaps not having enough emphasis with the voice. And that can happen in any kind of a presentation, but in a virtual presentation, the tone is really important. And the
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? It seems like we just lost audio. Can you hear me? Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so you guys can hear Marty, but you can't hear. Okay. Alrighty. Need to call in again. Apparently Eileen has lost her audio, so she needs to call in again. Okay, I don't know what. Yeah. Okay, I don't know what. Okay, Eileen is calling in again, so everybody just don't panic. Welcome to technology is common mistakes. Yeah, I agree, Karen. I don't know. Sometimes the telephones can go out, and Eileen is from somewhere in the Midwest, so we can have telephone disturbances from time to time. Or if a presenter using a phone is using a cell phone, they drop out. So, while we're waiting, Jenny says, letter for the poll isn't showing. You know, I'm really not sure why that's happening, but I'm going to change the tools on the polling a little bit. Oh, I see what happened. The responses got locked. Okay, for those of you that are having trouble with the polling, why don't you try different letters and see what happens. They're working for me right now, but I'm a moderator. Now you can see the letter too. Oh yeah, you have to click on the letters too. Cool. Good. Well, at least we got one thing working.
Hello, this is Eileen.
Oh, we're so glad to have you back.
I finally got back in. Am I okay? Am I sounding all right now?
Yes. Are you on a cell phone by chance?
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, so then this is great AT&T or regular wire. That doesn't.
I don't know what happened, but anyway, I'm back, and so I'm not sure how far along the way you lost me, but we were talking about common mistakes. Presentation is too long, the presenter is too monotonous, and there's too much repeated information. And those are three things, and there's more. I think we all know about the PowerPoint overkill. Those busy animations and the stars that burst and all of that just is a distraction. The voice is the center of the message, and especially when the call drops and you have to call back in. Obviously, it really, I think we just learned right then and there that the voice is the most important part of a virtual presentation, and it does need to be connected with the visuals as well as the content and the voice. Also, there's not enough rapport with the audience. I think you kind of picked up already that I entered some polls, and also I'm doing in my virtual presentations, because I do these so often, I really feel that I want to get to know my audience, and I really want to engage with my audience. And I don't know any of you, so I did build in some interaction throughout my presentation, but oftentimes I do virtual presentations with my faculty. As a faculty chair with 65 faculty all dispersed across the United States, the virtual presentations is really important. And so the kind of rapport that you need to build would be different depending upon your audience and depending upon the topic. But nevertheless, participants need to feel that the presenter really cares about them and that's part of it. And then I think another problem that you'll see with any kind of a presentation is there's no purpose or outcome. And obviously you want to make sure that message is in there. And that can happen in a face-to-face presentation as well, where you just kind of got lost on where the presenter was going because there didn't seem to be any connection with the purpose or outcomes desired. And then you have to have a hook at the beginning and a grab, and really grab somebody. In this case, I talked about what I was going to be talking about. I did it all. I had it in less than a minute, and I think that that's really important to grab people in what you're going to be talking about. This topic didn't lend itself to some statistics, but I did ask a poll question. We did get some dialogue going, but most virtual presentations are going to start out better if you can have a frame to help people understand really quickly what it is you're going to be talking about. And then have a really clear structure and flow as well. And just like any kind of presentation, not knowing what you're talking about is really, really not a good thing, and that can happen in any presentation, whether it's virtual or not. The key thing is that no one wants to go to a presentation and just listen to somebody read to them. So obviously that's a no-no. And then having too weak of a closing and not enough follow-through or next steps for the audience. And so with this, I thought it would be cool to turn on another poll again. And as I went through those common mistakes, have you seen any of those common mistakes in virtual presentations? Say yes, and then if you haven't, say no, or a green check mark is fine. And I'm going to leave that running for a while. And also, I would like to invite you, if there's some other common mistakes that I didn't mention that come to your mind, feel free to share them in the chat window, because maybe there's something else that we can add to the common mistakes. So thank you for doing that. And I am going to move on the other way and move on to the next one. And I also think that it would be really helpful if you don't agree with these common mistakes, say why, or if you do agree, say why or why not too. So I thought that would be kind of a good thing for a little engagement as much as you feel comfortable. I am going to be moving into what I consider to be the meat of the presentation, the components of effective virtual presentations. And I do have them labeled VC, VT, which means voice, content, visuals, and technology. Excellent voice, content, visuals, and technology is what's going to make a great virtual presentation. And in most situations, all four are needed to deliver an effective virtual presentation. If one or two are weak, the presentation will not be as effective. There is a notable exception, and I have an example on that I'm going to show you. I'm going to take a diversion out of the PowerPoint shortly, and I'll show you that exception. But there are presentations that you can click and go into and learn something and hear a message with no audio at all, and they can be effective. But in general, most of the virtual presentations really are better with audio in most instances, and it does depend on the topic. Next, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the voice part. It is really important to develop your voice. Listen to yourself talk. Work on the level, the tone, and the pitch. And really focus on when it's okay to ask questions and when to be silent. And as I mentioned earlier with the common mistakes, watch out for the monotony in the tone and pitch. I think that if people want to become highly skilled at giving virtual presentations, one of the things is to attend them and get ideas. And then keep in mind that the speaker's voice really does need to be very strong, very good, and also keep in mind that just because somebody has a good voice doesn't mean that they're going to give a good presentation, because the content, the visuals, and the technology can hinder the effectiveness of the presentation. I do have some tools, web tools, that will help you practice the voice if you're not familiar with them, or if you need ideas for how to practice. Whisperia is a free website. I'll show it shortly. I love it because you can go there in about 2 minutes. You understand what to do, and you can use the computer or the telephone, and you can create a voice file, and then you click another button, and you can listen to yourself. It's just absolutely amazing. And Brainshark is also really cool, and I like that as well. Again, very easy, and you create a voice file and click a button, and it's an MP3 file, and you can listen to it. And I think these are really easy for students as well. So for people that are just getting started, then you want to help develop the tone and develop the voice. Listening to yourself is a good way to do it. LiveStage is another option as well, another website that creates a way to make video and audio files really easily. And, of course, Audacity has been around for a long time. Many of you probably already are using it as a free open source software package. And you can create voice files there and listen to yourself as well. So those are a few tips about the voice. and then I would like to talk about the content a little bit. But I think before I do that, I am going to go ahead and show you. I'm just going to change screens here, and I'm going to open up my Firefox. So I just have to kind of do a couple of button clicks, and yep, very good. And so now you're going to see some of these resources. I think it's sometimes good to see them. The first one I want to show you. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with SlideShare or not, but this is a very nice web tool that makes it easy for people to get started or to sharpen their presentation skills. And on this home page here, or actually I'm on this page, I've got an example of a SlideShare presentation. I'm going to click through it. This is an example of a presentation that has been created in SlideShare without audio, this first one. And so you just work your way through, and as I'm clicking through it, you'll see that it's got a little different look to it than regular PowerPoint or PowerPoint alternatives. And SlideShare is free, and it's, obviously you can go through here in more detail if you have more of an interest beyond right now, but I just wanted to give you an example of a presentation that can be delivered, it's out there on the URL, and anybody can click in and pick up tips on how to use SlideShare and without any audio. So that was the first one. And there are many. By the way, when you come into SlideShare and you click and follow the links for the top most popular SlideShare presentations being developed, most of them are without audio. And I thought, what a great way to help develop our student skills in a good way, because you don't have to focus on just having the audio correct. You can work on the content first. But at the bottom, scroll down. Now here's an example of a SlideShare presentation that has audio. And I am just going to click the button, and I'm going to find out if you can hear it all right in just a few minutes. Let me know if it's not coming through. And I was wondering if it was going to work in here. Yep, I did. It probably isn't going to work because I'm showing it in this room right now, and so you'll have to take that link on your own to listen to it. But it's a fabulous minute and a half presentation, and it's why this guy loves SlideShare, and it had audio in it. So it wasn't going to work just then because of I'm opening it up in this platform. Okay, the next one is Brainshark. I had mentioned Brainshark. This is the home page. If you haven't seen it yet, this is the home page. And remember, you do have all these URLs in the PowerPoint and white paper that you're going to be able to download at the end of the session. So Brainshark is fabulous. And you can see already right on this home page here that you can just take a few clicks and shows you how to create a file, and you got lots of little tutorials. And of course, you can scroll down to the bottom and you can get a little bit more of an overview. What is Brainshark? How do you create files, and whatever it is that you want to use, it's all right here. I don't talk about web tools in any of my presentations if they aren't something that's really useful and easy to use, because I think that it's kind of silly to burden us educators have enough to do than to spend a lot of time. You can actually figure out how to use Brainshark, and so can your students very quickly because they've made it very easy, as you can see by looking at the home page here. What I like about Brainshark is that it gets an MP3 file, and it can be then attached and shared. And obviously, MP3 files are really popular with our students today because they can listen to them on their mobile devices. So that's really, really quite nice. Here's the live page. If you're not familiar with live page, again, it's free, and it has many opportunities for us as educators and working with students, depending upon if you just want to become good with it, if you want to help your students become expert with it. You can see just how the tutorials are amazing. I just love it how, I came in here, and whatever it is you want to know, you got a quick link, and there it is. And they're all done very professionally, and within a matter of very little time, you can actually be creating videos or audio files in LiveCage. So I thought that would be good. I think I'm going to go back to the presentation next, and then I'll come back over here. A little bit later. So I'm going to take another click, And there I am. Great. Hopefully that was helpful to see some of the websites I talked about. I sometimes think it's helpful when I am talking about websites that I at least show them a little bit, because it does help bring a little bit of interest to the presentation. The next part I'm going to be talking about is the second component, content. And this is really going to become the main emphasis of a presentation, is what is the content of it. So, and I want to begin by saying that it is similar to creating the content in any presentation. And you'll start off just like you are going to be creating a face-to-face presentation, and you're going to put that content together. But there are some differences. If you've ever been to a bad virtual presentation, it probably was someone that was trying to deliver it the same way they do a face-to-face presentation. And if you try to do a virtual presentation just like you would if we were all in the room together, it's just not going to be very well done. And with that, you start out presenting or collecting your content just like you would, but then it needs to be refined to be succinct, crisp, clear, and engaging. You really have to go through and edit it. You cannot have a lot of lag time, because if there is lag time, your audience is going to be out checking their email, and there'll be other distractions that'll interfere. A virtual audience has more distractions than a face-to-face audience, and it's really easy for those distractions to get in the way. So you really want to get that attention-getting introduction. You want to remember that you've only got about a minute to gain their confidence. I can't even begin to tell you how many presentations I've been to where within a minute I'm already lost, and I know that it does happen. So you really want to capture your audience with excellent content that is also relevant to what the topic is, and compelling information, and continuing to help bring that message as being credible. I'm just going to stop for just a second. We've all been in presentations, face-to-face, virtual, whatever, where you just kind of wondered what the person was saying. You might not have agreed with it, and they may even actually be saying things that really you lose credibility in the speaker, and that can happen in a virtual presentation very quickly. So it is good to continue to integrate why the material is important. Keep it simple, but yet detailed enough to hold their attention. And in a virtual presentation, you really want to have that flow, first, second, third, fourth, last, and those types of things. It's really awful when I go to a presentation and somebody's just talking and talking, and I'm not sure if they're at the beginning, if they're in the middle, at the end, but I'm wondering to myself, I hope it's the end. And so you really do have to keep some type of a flow with numbering system or a variety of things. In this case, I've used my outline, and I've used my 4 components here now, and I'm now on the second component. So I'm doing these types of things to help flow my presentation, because I know that's part of what needs to be done in order for it to be effective. The closing would be a short recap of what has been said, and obviously following up with some next steps. And then I wanted to also add that there is a number of great resources out there for developing content for presentations, in books and available online. And as I mentioned earlier, the key thing, though, is the virtual presentation needs to be extra succinct, crisp, and clear. And we don't have the options to see the body language, and we don't always necessarily have the option to adjust what we're going to do, although I've done so many of these that I do have ways to adjust what I do in my presentations, but it's not quite the same as you can in a face-to-face presentation. The third component of the VCVT, voice, content, and then the third one is the V for visuals. And I think that it's just important to understand that the visuals need to enhance the content but not overkill them. But with the PowerPoint, for example, as I said before, with all the busy animations, it is the content that matters, and the visuals enhance the content. And we have to keep in mind that the virtual audience is looking at a computer or a mobile device, and they're only going to see what's on the computer. And so we want to try to hold the audience captive with compelling visuals. CC Confer has done a really nice job with this platform we're using, and the PowerPoint template that they gave me. These are all intended to make it be visually attractive to those that are participating. There are a number of options available. For example, there are the PowerPoint, which is by far the number one or the most popular. But there's Google Presentation that has a software package that students could use if they didn't have PowerPoint. Zoho has a free spreadsheet software as well, and OpenOffice. So it doesn't mean that everybody has to have PowerPoint. There are good alternatives. I also think that virtual presentations work well when you want to show a tour of the software, for example, or a tour of websites as examples. You can actually show some videos. You noticed when I went into SlideShare, I wanted to see if that audio would work. It didn't work. But in many of the presentation situations, sometimes that you can find some that will work. It is always a little bit challenging, but nevertheless, once you get to know your systems, you'll come up with some different ideas. And I also have provided in the resource section of this presentation some more ideas about good visuals. And then we come to the fourth one, technology. Well, we know already, I lost my call, dropped today. The technology, anything can happen when you're giving a virtual presentation. So, and sometimes the technology completely interferes with the quality. And so even though there might be a great content, great voice, great visuals, there's also understanding the technology in the platform itself, the audio settings, understanding all the different tools available. And so you really do have to know the platform you're in, and you really have to know how the audio and everything connects. And so the platform you're using as well as the presentation, those are all part of the technology. The headset, the computer. I happen to have a brand new computer. I've got a brand new headset, but I have here at my station 3 computers and 3 different headsets ready to go, so that no matter what happens, I would be able to, adapt very quickly and be able to make sure that, the technology doesn't get in the way. Some examples of the platform are CCC Confer. This is an Illuminate product, and I mentioned already that, there's a really good job with this, and it's fabulous. Citrix GoToMeeting is another popular one. Cisco's WebEx Meeting Center, Microsoft Office Live Meeting, Adobe Connect. However, there are more, and even these are continuously being updated and new products are available. Oftentimes, the virtual presenter has no input about the platform, but just is expected to learn and use it. And typically, there are excellent tutorials and assistance is provided. CC Confer, as an example, met with me. Everything was provided for me, tutorials. Absolutely excellent. It was just very simple, very easy to come in and use this. I'm starting to hear an echo. Is my voice sounding all right?
It's okay now, but Sue, you're on the phone and also apparently have your computer speaker turned on. So one of them has to go.
That is a problem. And sometimes as I'm talking about the platform, some people just call it web conferencing. There's just another term, but it all is the same thing. It's a specific software that allows a presenter to come into a room and all the participants to come in as well. And so they're very popular, and they're really getting better and better every year. I think it's important that we get this platform that we're going to use and master it. And I just saw a question in the chat box that caught my eye. And unfortunately, none of these are free. But if you want to have your students, if you're thinking about doing this for school, you could download a trial version of any of these, and all of them will give some type of a 30 or 60 or 90-day trial, and that would give you enough time to try them all and choose which one you wanted, as well as you could actually create something for your students as well. But ultimately, to have something long-term, there's going to be some money involved, and I think I've got a little bit about that on the next slide once I get through this, and I'll show you some tips on what you can do about that. I was just mentioning that it was important for the presenter to be able to get a good handle on the platform you're going to use. I was very fortunate here today. CC Confer has a facilitator along with me, so I don't have to do very much with with some of the things behind the scenes. But oftentimes, when I'm working in my Adobe Connect room with my faculty, I don't have any facilitator. It's just me. So what I'll do is I will have one of my computers logged in on as a participant, and the other one I'm logged in as the presenter. So I always can look over and see what my participants are seeing, and I have found that to be very, very helpful in my situations, and so that might be something that might be helpful for you too. This is the slide I was mentioning that I had for you. If you do need to choose a web conferencing vendor, I do have two links here, and again, this is on the PowerPoint as well as the paper that you'll be able to download at the end, and you'll be able to go and get these links. And if it's something that's helpful for you, it's nice to see what the comparisons are saying about the different conferencing vendors, and they also do go into pricing and what they offer for free and what they charge extra money for and all that kind of stuff. It is not really expensive. It's very surprising. Actually, when you start looking into it, it's actually they're really not nearly as expensive as you might think. Now I'm at the end of the 4 components, and so now we're at the point where we've got an overview of the voice and the content, the visuals, and the technology. So now we need to practice, and I'm just going to talk about the practicing here because I think that the practice is all 4 levels: practicing the voice, get that content, practice the content, practice the visuals, practice the technologies. Then you got to put them all together and practice them all together, and it really does take quite a bit of effort. And the more I've read quite a bit about it, and everyone says that it actually is more practice for a virtual presentation than even for a face-to-face presentation, and probably a dozen or more practices. I went through this presentation for today at least 30 times. So this is only the 2nd time I've delivered it. And obviously, the more you do a particular presentation, the more comfortable you are with it. But I've given webinars for some of my faculty, and I'll give them 3 or 4 times a week. And then I'll move on to a different topic, and I'll do that one 3 or 4 times. And obviously, when you get down to the 3rd and 4th time you're doing something, you don't have to practice as much. But in the beginning, with something that you're new at presenting, there really is quite a bit of practice. And I think that if you're going to be having your students do this, that's something to keep in mind as well. That everybody's not going to be a pro the first time, and it does take quite a bit of a learning curve, to move up the ranks from beginner to expert. The other item that I mentioned in my objectives that I was going to talk about today, and I think it's really important to keep in mind that we all have a virtual image, and so what the participants hear, what they see, is affecting my image today. And you don't know me. We're not even. I'm up in Michigan, and it's just so different. We all have virtual images nowadays, and we all have to be sensitive to this, as well as keep in mind that when you're giving a virtual presentation, the participants are coming in with very high expectations, and also they're easily distracted. So I think the skills of virtual presenters are leadership, knowledge, confidence. And then I think the 4 components of voice, content, visuals, and technology that I've discussed already are all key things to help make virtual presenters be more effective. I also think that the communications about the event, in advance of the event and after, will further affect a presenter's image. And also, once the image has been damaged, correcting it requires a 360-degree debrief and improvement planning to avoid subsequent instances. And so at this point, I was going to do this as a poll, but as I was coming in here earlier, I think this is going to be something a little bit better that we may want to just dialogue with each other about in the chat window. I showed you SlideShare already, and I showed you Brainshark, and I showed you LivePage, just the home pages and a little bit about it, obviously not real detailed. But I also have some other tools, Prezi, Live Finders, Blogster, and Whisperia that I have mentioned in my presentation, and it is my intent to show you those as well. So if you would like to dialogue about what you're doing with any of these, or if you'd like to know more about any of these, that would be great to share in the chat window. I should say that Whisperia website would not come up when I started this practice of this about 2 hours ago today, so it hasn't been coming up yet. So when I get there is a possibility that whenever you're doing something with websites, there's always the possibility that it may not, for some reason, work at that time. So it's not uncommon, but nevertheless, Whisperia was my favorite one, and I haven't been able to get that one opened up. So hopefully when I go in there today, it will be, this time around, it will be there. And so with that, I'm going to, maybe this is a good time for me to go ahead and move into the roadshow just a little bit. I've talked about SlideShare already, but if you need a description of it, I've got it right here. I think it's a way to share presentations. It's a free website that permits you to share websites, and I already showed you that one. And but on here, one of the things that I didn't show you, and I'm really not planning on bringing this one up unless we have time at the end. But if you have an interest in seeing some more examples of a presentation without audio, and yet it's an effective one, this Allison Topper in 2011 created a presentation that describes the difference between Digo and Delicious. And so I found it really helpful. And also, what I like about her presentation is she actually gives information out about social bookmarking. And if this is something that you want to share with your students, already you have like a unit right here, a little activity to help them understand how to use Digo, Delicious, what the difference is, and what about social bookmarking if you have students that are at that level. I don't know about actually all of our students. We all seem to have those that are just really technical savvies. They're really on top of everything, and then you have the disadvantaged technological students as well. It just seems like the more we get into this technology stuff, the wider the gap is, and I have found in my students that I'm still really helping some get confident with things, and at the same time I've got others that almost can teach it. They're so good at it. So, but I have found that both the high end and the low end benefit from us as instructors, giving them extra tips and helping to connect them with the purpose and different things that we can share to help them shape their technology skills, because for 21st century skills is all about integrating the technology with some of the other levels of thinking. Okay, at this point, I think this is a good time to go back and take a diversion. I'm going to flip on my websites again, and I'm going to open up my Firefox and start to show you some of these resources that I've just got here in the PowerPoint. And again, you have all of these when you get the PowerPoint or the paper, whichever one, they're all in there. The blog that Marty had put in the window, this is my blog, and this is, I'm just going back up to the beginning of it. I have this blog WordPress blog, and this page is the virtual presenter page, and it actually is the same information that's in the white paper, in the paper that came with this, that you can download. Or you could just come right here to this page, whatever you were more comfortable with. And each one of these pages in my blog happen to be different topics that I give presentations about. So I just kind of use this as a way to share information and make it easy for the participants to get information later when I'm finished with the presentation. So that's what this one is. And then over here, I'm not sure if you know about live binders or are using them. Probably you are. Many educators are using live binders. I know that they've just really become quite hot with educators in the last couple of years. And so what I did is I created a live binder that's entitled the Virtual Presenter Guide. And you have a link to this, as I said before, in my PowerPoint as well as in the Word document. But this live binder has all of the resources that I'm talking about all in one URL. And for example, I went to the fourth tab, and this is Mind Tools. And I'm sure that by now, Mind Tools has been around forever. It's awesome. But this is a really great page I put in here about communication skills, because in all honesty, virtual presentation is another umbrella under communication skills. And so I just thought that this particular page might be helpful. It's even got a little quiz that somebody can come in and take and evaluate their skills. Makes it easy to really take this virtual presenter idea further as we leave today and go back out and do something with it. So this is a great page. I put my blog in. The first one is the blog and opens right up to the virtual presenter page. I love INC resource. Let me see if it's opening up. There it is. Also, they have some excellent ideas here as well. Sometimes we can really bring our content home to our students when they understand that it's an employability skill. It's something that's needed out in the workplace. And I really thought this was an excellent page, so I put that in here as well. And it talks about listening. It talks about quick tips for communications and all kinds of tips. So I think this will be very helpful as we engage beyond today with taking this, some of these ideas and putting them into practice. And of course, who hasn't taken advantage of YouTube? So this third tab is going to take you to a place in YouTube that I put together, and I moved into it all of the different presentations I could find on communication skills in YouTube. And so when you take that link, it will take you there, and there will be about a dozen or so YouTube that are already pre-selected, ready to go for you to share with your students or to use yourself. And here's another, I did Mind Tools. How good are you? This is from Mind Tools as well, but this is a really good article about how good are your presentation skills. And obviously, I can scroll down. It's got a little bit of a quiz that you can take. And again, I think it'll be very helpful as we move on. I showed SlideShare before. So you saw that before. Here's a link to it as well. Social Bright. It's looking like this is taking a little while to load, so maybe I'll come. There it is. I like this one as well. This is one that I think may be attractive to some of our students because it has the social network flair to it. And so, but nevertheless, there are some resources here as well for helping to develop presentation skills, virtual presentation skills in ourselves and in our students. The web conferencing, this is one of those comparison sites that's going to open up here. It looks like it's still opening up. There it is. So this is a review of the various web conferencing solutions and so on and so on. I've got more tabs as well. But LiveBinder, if you're interested, here you go. And it's shareable with students as well if you think it's helpful. And if you have an interest in learning more about LiveBinders, I do have a page of that in my blog as well. Back to my blog, if you're not using LiveBinders and want to know more, I just did a presentation on LiveBinders the other day, and it's all right here. It's really a great tool. I'm going to move on, and I'm moving down to Prezi now. And Prezi, as soon as I say it, I know already that many of you are already using Prezi. I usually find in my audience that there will be some that have and some that have not. And it looks like we're getting pretty close to the end of our time here, so I don't want to take too long with this. But they do have a wonderful Prezi. And all I have to do is click this arrow here, and it would show a Prezi, so you'd get a chance to see what it looks like. But it's just a new way to put presentations together. And it eliminates the box of PowerPoint. You can have circles, and you can have clouds, and you can have all kinds of views that are just phenomenal. And it's very easy to use and also very effective. And I think many presentations could be just delivered in Prezi. I'll just show the Prezi as the presentation instead of bypass PowerPoint entirely. Very cool. And then the last one that I have, and then I'll go back to my PowerPoint. This is Glogster, and again, that's been around a while, and many of you are already familiar with it. And it is another way to give presentations. It is another way to have content. And also once you come to the homepage, you can click and see what's for education. You can scroll all the way down if you're not familiar with it. What is Glogster? There it is. And again, another way to put the content together that would be engaging for students and also would really make really make the content have a little more pizzazz. So with that, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and I will go ahead and slide through there. Those are the websites that I just showed you, and I guess okay, I'm ready to do my conclusion. Looks like we're running out of time. Thank you very, very much for your time today. Today we talked about definitions of virtual presenters. We talked a little bit about some example of virtual presentations, shared ideas to help our students prepare to give virtual presentations, tips and strategies for effective voice and image. Talked about the 4 key components of virtual presentations: sound, substance, and practice, common mistakes to avoid, and resources for faculty and students. And I want to thank you very, very much. And at this point, I'm going to make sure that I've covered everything. It looks like we've got about 5 minutes. And I see a hand is raised, and so let me see who that might be. Whoever. Marty, do you see who that is?
That's Jenny. And just let me break in here a bit. I'm going to post the evaluation for this session, and it will show up on your computers as a website or web page. Please just fill it out and turn it in so we can know what we can do, how well you like this one, and what we can do to improve our webinars.
Okay, thank you very much. I did put the file transfer box up, and hopefully you would be able to download the PowerPoint if you're interested, as well as the paper I talked about, but I noticed Marty was putting all the URLs in the chat box. So thank you all very much, and it was truly an honor to be here today and to somewhat meet you, and a very engaged audience from my opinion, and I really appreciate the questions and the comments, and thank you very, very much.
Oh, Eileen, since we've got a few minutes left, okay. There's been a recurring question that's that people have been concerned about, and that's the use of captioning on some of these tools you've been showing, especially ones that use audio. And are they different, and which allows captioning, or are there any problems with captioning?
No problems at all. Absolutely. What I do is I have my script in Microsoft Word, and so then I have my script, and that becomes the transcript. Oftentimes, it's just easier just to attach. If it's an MP3 file, I'm attaching the MP3 file. If somebody prefers to just read it, I just attach the DOC file. And so that way they've got both of them. In some of these platforms, they have a spot for you just to attach the transcript right in there. It's all very easily done so that we can be in full compliance with, serving any student, whether they could hear or not.
And Jenny has a really good question here. If students complain when they don't see me, is there any research indicating audio is better than video?
There is research out there about that, absolutely. And we're really, it's really competitive right now. I mean, the student, if we're not, the students can, the video, if they don't like the way someone looks, it's really difficult to get past that, to get past the message. So I think there are some problems with that. But there is research out there that they both can be effective with the video. Any of these can be effective. It all depends on the content, and it depends on the subject matter, and it all depends on the delivery. Does that help?
I think we have time for one last question, and then we'll stop the recording. But Eileen, if you have time, there's time. If you have time, we'd like you to stick around for more.
Oh, I have a lot of time, and I did see a question pop up about the webcam. I had actually practiced my webcam, and it was all working perfect. And I have, I've got everything. I was ready for the webcam to work today. But when Marty and I met in here, the webcam seemed it got off target in the room, and somehow it went up on my fan. So I was very disappointed because I do think that hindered the quality. It would have been a lot better today. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So, but I think that if you're going to be doing something, like I always have the webcam on for all my presentations all the time, and this is one of the first times that it hasn't worked right. So I think it's very important, at least at the beginning and at the end, and then you can get it out of the way when you're doing the presentation. I think the webcam is very effective. I got a picture of myself here, and sometimes I just use a picture when I can, but sometimes you have to do both. And I'm ready to answer more questions, and those of you that need to go, we understand, and if you have a question, stay on.
One more question for the recording, because I know a lot of you are going to be interested in this one. Which presentation method do you recommend for Blackboard? When
you say Blackboard, are you talking about the learning management system?
Yes, a lot of people teach courses using Blackboard.
Okay, and so they would need, they want to know.
Blackboard isn't always compatible with different technologies, and or how to upload or embed different technologies in Blackboard systems.
Okay, you can attach any. It depends on what your system has. You can put an MP3 file in. You can create a SlideShare and put it in as a URL. Whisperia pops in as a URL. So you would just be inserting a URL. So I don't see any problem with most of these things I talked about today. A URL to a live binder, for example, is that what you were thinking about? Is how to embed?
Well, Sherry says, I know you can embed SlideShare with Blackboard 9. And so some of these resources, apparently with Blackboard, you have the ability to embed it so it'll play within the Blackboard platform. And others, like Eileen was saying, you'll just have to give the link in Blackboard so that they'll go out of the system to get.
But you can have it linked right in the Blackboard. I teach in Blackboard too, and you just put the link in there, have it be hyperlinked, so they can just one click and they're there.
I'm going to stop the recording right now. And Eileen, thank you so much. It was great, and we've had a lot of participation. And thank everybody for coming. And do fill out your evals and come to more of these.
And drop me an email if you drop me an email if I didn't answer your question. I've got my email right there on the screen. Feel free to drop me an email, as well as in my blog. You can make comments there as well. But absolutely, I don't think that you're going to find these things are going to be a problem for you with Blackboard. And if not, just work around it and use something else. There's so many choices nowadays. Thank you for having me. This has been very, very, very exciting for me. Thank you for this chance to. I feel like I'm in California, even though I'm in Michigan.